When people hear the word empire, they usually picture armies, conquests, maps, painted in bold imperial colors. But in the 20th century, something different emerged. An empire that didn't need soldiers, only signatures. No armies marching into cities, just men in suits landing in capital cities, carrying loan agreements in their briefcases. And if you want to see this kind of empire at its peak, you look at Latin America, because there, the International Monetary Fund didn't just lend money. It reshaped entire economies. It dictated national policies. It influenced the lives of hundreds of millions of people, all in the name of stability, all in the service of creditors. Now, before we go deeper, if you like this kind of content where we break down money, power, and the systems behind them, make sure you subscribe and drop a like. Because this story is not just history, it's a warning. Here's the paradox. The IMF was created in 1944. At Bretton Woods, its mission sounded almost noble. Stabilize currencies, prevent economic collapse, help countries recover after war. On paper, it looked like the financial world's doctor, a system designed to heal. But in Latin America, that doctor turned into something else. A debt collector, one whose priority wasn't the patient, but the banks in New York and London. To understand how this happened, you need to step into Latin America in the mid-20th century. Countries like Brazil, Mexico, Argentina, they were trying to modernize fast. They built industries behind tariffs, expanded state-owned companies, subsidized food and fuel to keep social stability. Politicians promised growth today and pushed the cost into tomorrow, and that tomorrow would be expensive. Then came the 1970s. Cheap money flooded the global system. Oil prices surged. Petrodollars piled up in Western banks, and those banks needed somewhere to lend. Latin American leaders saw opportunity, borrow in dollars, build infrastructure, fund social programs, keep the system running. For a while, it worked. Growth was high. Everything looked like a success story. But there was always a catch. The catch came in the early 1980s. In the United States, under Paul Volcker, interest rates were pushed sky high to fight inflation. Overnight, everything changed. Loans that once cost 5% suddenly demanded 15, even 20%. And suddenly, Latin America couldn't pay. In 1982, Mexico made it official. We can't pay our debt. That wasn't just a statement. It was a shockwave through the entire global financial system. Because it wasn't just Mexico. Dozens of Mexico Brad countries were in the same position. And that's when the IMF stepped in. But here's the part most people don't understand. The IMF didn't just offer help. It offered conditions. Cut subsidies, devalue your currency, freeze wages, privatize industries, slash spending on health, education, pensions. Entire national budgets were rewritten, not in Mexico City, not in Buenos Aires, but in Washington. And those budgets had one clear priority. Make sure the lenders get paid. For politicians, this was convenient. They could tell their people, we don't have a choice. The IMF is forcing this. It gave them cover. The pain could be pushed onto the public, while responsibility was shifted elsewhere. And the results? Brutal. The 1980s became known as Latin America's lost decade. Economic growth stalled. Poverty exploded. Inequality deepened. Entire countries became poorer, while still sending billions abroad. In debt payments. Think about that. You're sinking and still handing over your wallet. This wasn't just economics. It was real life. Riots in Caracas, protests in Buenos Aires, unemployment, hunger, political instability, governments collapsing, and in some cases, repression. Meanwhile, the IMF presented itself as neutral, technocratic, rational. But the reality was obvious. It wasn't neutral. It was enforcing a system, A system where money flowed upward, where creditors were protected, and where entire nations adjusted to fit that structure. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Latin America wasn't just in crisis. It was a testing ground. The policies used there, austerity, privatization, structural adjustment, were later applied elsewhere. Asia in 1997, Russia in the 90s, and after 2008, even Europe. Look at Greece, same pattern, debt crisis, external intervention, austerity, cuts, privatization, different place, same playbook. So the real question is this: was this just bad economics? Or was it the cost of maintaining a global financial system designed to protect creditors above everything else? Because here's the part most people miss. This isn't just history. The same dynamics exist today. Debt levels in countries like the United States, Japan, Italy are massive. The only thing holding the system together is belief. And belief can change fast. When it does, the adjustment comes. It might not be called austerity. It might be called responsibility, reform, stability. But the mechanism is the same. Budgets change, people pay, creditors get protected. That's the real lesson. Debt is not just a number, it's leverage. And leverage always means control. But here's where it turns back to, end quote. You don't control global institutions, but you control how you understand the system. And that matters. Because people who don't understand this get crushed by it. Don't confuse promises with real wealth. Real wealth isn't what systems promise you. It's what survives when those systems fail. Your skills, your assets, your network. History doesn't repeat exactly, but it rhymes. And if you don't understand the pattern, you don't escape it. If you want more content like this, where we break down how money, power, and history actually work, make sure you follow the channel, like the video, and subscribe. Because the system isn't going away, but understanding it, that's your only advantage.